Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tuesdays with Nina. Today, actually, is a follow-up from someone who wrote in a little while ago about having been married many years and her husband not being interested in sex anymore. And he's saying, well, why don't you initiate? So she would try to initiate, and he is still not responding well. And she hasn't had time to get to my books, the books I recommended, but she wrote back and thanked me for the responses, and husband's still not interested. And she doesn't have any specific questions today, but she does talk about something I do want to address. And a couple of things, it hurts her to think that he's not the one. And I did recommend counseling together, and she said she's scared of counseling because she doesn't want to find out that they're not supposed to be together. And I want to talk about that fear today. First, let me say that each person must make the choices they need to in their own relationships, and everyone has their own reasons for doing or not doing a certain thing, and we can never judge a relationship from the outside. We only think we know what's going on. But I do, having been in an unhappy marriage for 20 years before I met Ernest, I know a lot personally about the fear that we're not supposed to be together, or I don't want to go into counseling because I'm afraid of the truth. And the truth is that you might not be good together anymore. And that's just a fact. And that is a sadness. It is a sorrow. I'm not going to say it's a failure because I don't think of marriage and divorce that way as failures. I think actually it is a success for us as women to be able to admit, you know what? I'm not getting everything I need out of this relationship, and I deserve better. I deserve a partner who loves me. I deserve a partner who wants to be sexual with me. I deserve a partner who wants to reciprocate my love and affection. And staying in a relationship because it hurts to think about leaving it, or we've invested so many years together, I can't leave now. It really comes down to how important to you is your own happiness, and what are you willing to do to take responsibility for that. I was married 20 years. The last 7 years were very, very fraught with very little sex, and he would not see counseling, and he would not talk about it. He made it all my fault, and if only I did this, and if only I did that, then he, on and on and on. And I was so worried how it would look to everybody that Nina Hartley got divorced, and Nina Hartley's not happy at home, and Nina Hartley, really her? And so my pride kept me there for a long time, and also my unwillingness to be the bad guy, which is a problem many women have. We don't want to make a fuss, and we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to get all uppity. We don't want to disappoint our mothers. We don't want to disappoint our friends. We don't want to lose face in our social circle or whatever. And so we put up with lack of intimacy in our lives, lack of pleasure, lack of closeness and caring and touching and kissing and all the things that everybody needs and deserves. And while I'm not saying your husband isn't basically a great guy or you haven't had good times together, it appears from what little I know from the one-sided thing that I've read here that your desire for him and intimacy with him is high and his for you is low. I don't know the reasons. I don't know what he's like. I don't know anything about it. But I do know that if our partners will not dance with us, then we'll either have to get new dance partners or go without dancing. And I went without dancing for 7 years in my last relationship, and I realized how harmful that was to me, how damaging, and how ultimately completely unfulfilling it was for me to remain in a relationship where my partner wasn't invested. He was invested in blaming me. He was invested in making it my fault, my problem, my responsibility, but he was not interested in doing the work, his side of the work. You know, obviously every relationship has two people in it, and it takes two to tango. So while it may hurt to think you're not meant to be together, that does appear to be strongly what circumstances seem to be indicating to me from here, not being in your marriage. But you've been very clear to him about what you want from him. You suggested things. He has pushed back. He has not agreed. He has not done his work. He has not stepped up. He has not reciprocated, whatever. His actions are speaking louder than words, and it appears to me from here, he is no longer interested. It doesn't really matter why, honestly, because if you have to beg for someone to love you, have to beg for someone to make love with you, what good is the love making you're going to get in return, really? So you've gone without love and affection for a long time, but you're not free to look for it elsewhere. How's that helping you? What are you clinging to? What are you holding on to? An idea, a ghost, a fantasy, a charade, appearances, social standing? Only you can answer that. I don't know. What's more important to you? The external situation that you're living with now, or your internal unhappiness? Everyone deserves love and affection and caring from somebody. And I resisted for 10 years thinking that my ex and I were not supposed to be together, or he wasn't the one. And during those 10 years, things got worse and worse. And until it turned out that even I could no longer ignore the fact that he wasn't the one and we're not meant to be together. Despite 20-year investment of my time and my efforts and my energy, I realized, oh my gosh, I have to go now. So go to counseling on your own, if only to work on your internal conflict about how you feel versus what you want and what you fear. And a counselor can help you get in there and go in there and say, you know what, I'm having trouble in my marriage and I'm afraid to look at the idea that maybe we're not meant to be together, and that's hanging me up, and I've tried this and this. So a good counselor will hear you out. A good counselor will be non-judgmental and will not encourage you to stay in a relationship that's not satisfying to you, nor tell you to flee next week. Ideally, we get to the point with counseling where we go through the anger, the rage, the fear, the despair, the grief, the bargaining, all those feelings until we get to a calm place and we can realize calmly, you know, I need to do this. Not out of fear, not out of resentment, not out of anger, not out of anything but, you know, I really need to do this. I really need to move on. This is no longer working for me. So counseling can get you to the point where you can really address your feelings without emotional upset and see what it is you need to do for yourself. And this really is something that you need to do for yourself. From what you share with me, he's no longer interested or willing to work with you on the relationship. And eventually, sooner or later, that truth must be faced, and then you have to figure out what are you going to do about it for your own sake, for your own life, for your own pleasure, and your own stab at being happy. Finding a partner. There's so many men out there who are dying to meet a woman who wants to be sexual, who wants to explore intimacy and pleasure and touch and all the fun things that happen out there. So you will not be single for long if it ends up that way. This has been Tuesdays with Nina. Thank you so much for being here today, and send your questions to tuesdayswithnina@gmail.com, and I will address them on the air very, very soon. Thanks. Till then, till next week. Bye-bye.